Very good. Okay, thank you and welcome to our, let me find the date, 2028, June 28th, 2022. It's a day already. Our 2:00 Commissioners consent agenda meeting. So we will start off with open public forum. And with that, that'll be for any public comments that you would like that on anything that is not on our agenda. So if there's any, I will start now. I will open it up for any public comment for items not on our agenda. I don't have anyone listed, but I just want to open it up. Raise hand feature or *9 if you're on the phone. And I'm looking around, not seeing anyone. Second call for anyone wishing to come up for open public forum. Third and final call. Seeing no one, I will close the open public forum and I will ask our clerk of the board if there was any written comments that were received for our consent agenda items.
No written comments received.
Thank you. With that, we are striking item number 2D on today's agenda. And then we do have 2 by leave items that I will read in just a moment. I will look to my fellow commissioners.
So do you want, Madam Chair, do you want a motion on everything but the by leave items?
The by leave items and item number 3, the public hearing.
Okay, Madam Chair, I would move that we approve our consent agenda items listed under item 2 to include items 2A through 2K, like in kangaroo, excluding item 2D.
I will second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to accept items 2A through K, excluding item D. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That will take us to we're going to take our 2 by leave items next. So we have by leave item number 4, which is a resolution in the matter of awarding bid of waterborne traffic marking paint in the amount of $89,925 in accordance with Washington State Contract number 02817 for the Spokane County Public Works Department project number P12991. And we also have item number 5, which is a resolution in the matter of awarding bid for waterborne traffic marking paint in the amount of $95,032.74 in accordance with Washington State Contract number 02817 for the Spokane County Public Works Department project P12992. Since we did add those as by leave items, I will take any oral comments that anyone would have on those 2 items. Since they're similar, I'm going to go ahead and take them together. So I will open up for oral comments on by leave item number 4 and by leave item number 5. Again, use your raise hand feature or *9 if you'd like to testify, or I don't see anyone in the audience. Second call for anyone wishing to provide oral comments on by leave item 4 or 5. Third and final call. Seeing none, I will close the oral comment period and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve items 4 and 5 as by leave items as presented.
I will second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve by leaves items number 4 and 5. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That will take us to our, get to the right page. Our public hearing item, and Matt Zarakar, would you like to give us a little presentation to start with?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Matt Zarakar, Spokane County Public Works. Thank you for the opportunity to present on this public hearing item, the annual amended construction plan for 2022. And we have a short slideshow that we'll share with you, and then we'll also be available to answer any questions or answer any public testimony. First slide here is the breakdown of where the money is going this year in terms of our road construction dollars. And you can see the vast majority, as you might expect, is in the urban roadway category, 16.8 million. Rural roadway gets 6.4. There is a couple of pathway projects. And traffic safety is 1.7 this year. That's a variety of different items. The bridge item is a couple different projects, Euclid Road Bridge included, which we were very happy to be able to get out the door this year. And finally, the stormwater project, and that in its entirety is the West Terrace project that was paid for by ARP money. And thank you to the board for that. Next slide. This is the breakdown of the program by funding source. We get 8.2 of our own dollars, 8.2 million of our own dollars into these projects. The federal contribution is 18.2, right around 7 million in state dollars. That little local match is from a different funding source, but also local dollars. And finally, the bridge dollars is primarily the Euclid Road Bridge project again. And that comes to a total program value of 36.7 million. And one thing I like to point out, and I think we talked about it at the briefing, for every county dollar that we put in, we have $4.47 of other people's money. And that's just really a nod to our folks that do our transportation planning and go out and get our grant dollars, and also a reflection of the commissioners and their contributions to the program too, through ARP and other sources, and Euclid Road Bridge too, standing out this year. So thank you for that. Really do appreciate the support. Next slide. A few of the major projects this year, Bigelow 6, that's from Progress to Wellesley down at the terminus in Spokane Valley. That's underway. If you've been out that direction, it's coming along. They're working on the pedestrian underpass between the two schools, and they've got the road pretty much rough graded at this point. So that's coming along well. Hope to complete it here this fall. Craig and Thorp Road intersection. This is a realignment project on Craig Road that will benefit a couple different parties. It'll help us from having the two 90-degree turns in the road and the stop signs that are awkward for traffic to navigate. So that'll be a good project that way, both from convenience and from a safety standpoint. Looking forward to that one getting done this year too. Lincoln Road reconstruction project. This is a grant we got to rebuild Lincoln Road, and this is the portion up kind of at the north end of Hilliard, or Market rather. And we're actually having a public meeting tonight on that project. So looking forward to getting that one kicked off. We have a consultant on board to help us design it. It's 1.4 million is the estimate, and we again intend to build that this year. Bellator Preservation, this one's pretty well wrapped up. I haven't been out there in a while, but when we had visited earlier, they had the CTV down and they were looking to pave. So we're coming along on that one. If it's not already done, it will be done in short order. Country Homes Boulevard, this is a preservation project. It's a 2-inch grind and inlay, and this was just for the northbound lanes. And finally, the West Terrace Capital Improvement Project. This is the large stormwater mitigation project for the West Terrace neighborhood. And we have a consultant on board. They are aggressively pursuing the work, and we're working jointly with them to kind of keep things on track. We're anticipating a 60% set of drawings by July. So that's coming right up. And would love to get at least phase 1 pushed out the door this year. And that's the portion that would build the main trunk line that the neighborhood will eventually tie into, running south on Hayford, kind of from the intersection of Westbow and Hayford south to Richland. And also, last but certainly not least, Euclid Road Bridge is coming out this year. So we have a contractor on board and ready to go. Looking forward to that one. And the next slide is really just a map of those projects. And you can see they're kind of evenly distributed around the county this year. That's not always the case. They're predominantly need driven. So sometimes they're more grouped up, but this year it's a fairly even distribution around the county. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have, and I'll be available for public testimony.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Are there any questions for Mr. Zarecor? Commissioner French?
I don't have a question, but I think I've already shared this with Matt, but I'll share it with my fellow commissioners. We did receive last week a notification that our request for additional funding for Craig Road is moving very well through the congressional side, and we're anxious. I think it's been approved for $3 million, and we're anxious to see what comes out of the Senate side. But that could also add more federal dollars to this tally sheet. So just to all of the staff out there, thank you so much for all your work. I mean, this wouldn't be possible without you. So thanks for doing such a great job, and thanks, Matt, for your leadership. Yeah, so who's Chad? No, I'm just kidding.
Very good. Thank you. So with that, this is a public hearing item, so I will open the public hearing in the matter of adoption of the 2022 amended annual road construction program for Spokane County Public Works Department. Again, use your raise hand feature or *9 to unmute, and I'm looking at the audience as well. So first call, second call, third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on our public hearing item number 3A. Seeing none, then I will close the public testimony and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve our hearing item 3A as presented.
I'll second the motion.
A motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. That's going to end our 2 o'clock consent agenda, but we are going to be continuing our meeting over in our conference room after we finish signing some documents here. We have a couple items that we amended the agenda yesterday. So we will be discussing, it was on the printed agenda as for yesterday that is going to be happening today. We'll have Mr. Jim Amicio talking about the e-signature policy briefing. We'll have Doug Chase from our Parks and Rec Department to talk about Parks level of service update, and with Commissioner French discussing a disabled private golf cart trail waiver program. And Jeff McMorris, our community engagement and policy advisor, giving us an ARP update. There might be some other miscellaneous items. And is there any executive session?
Yes, there'll be one. Two.
Okay. So those will all be taking place over in our conference room. After we sign, we will just adjourn for a little bit, probably 5 minutes here to get our signatures done, and then we will reconvene over there in the conference room. Thank you all very much for being here. Okay, welcome back to our continuation of our 2 o'clock meeting. It is now 2:28, and we have all 3 commissioners and our executive management team. We are picking up where we left off yesterday on some agenda items that we moved. So we start with Mr. Amicio.
Thank you, Chairman CUNY. If I could have Mr. Valencia, please go to the very short PowerPoint presentation. And while Mr. Valencia is doing that, I've handed out the document which you're going to see on the screen during the second part of the very short presentation. And the policy we're talking about, board members, is starts on page 3, attachment A of the document, if it's something you'd like to look at as we move forward. Mr. Valencia, may I have you go to the first slide of the PowerPoint, please? The purpose of this afternoon's public meeting is for me to brief with the board a new county policy which would allow electronic signatures and electronic documents to be used in conjunction with county business. This policy will permit the use of sending and accepting electronic records, as well as using electronic records in conjunction with county business. This policy will decrease the county's using of physical records and create opportunities for efficiencies and cost saving through electronic transactions. The next slide, please, Mr. Valencia. A very brief background, board members, and this is kind of interesting. State agencies, and I think that's critical here, state agencies have been authorized to transact business by electronic documents and electronic signatures since July 24th, 2015. At that point in time, the legislature enacted Chapter 19.360 RCW. In the 2015 enactment, counties were not allowed to use electronic signatures. It's kind of strange. So the legislature in the following year, 2016, modified chapter 19360 to allow local agencies to use to transact business by electronic documents and by electronic signatures. And the terminology local agencies includes counties, cities, towns, and other special purpose districts. But this wasn't the end of the electronic signature legislation. In 2020, the legislature repealed chapter 19360 and enacted the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act. And this act, for all practical purposes, was the same as we had on our books. But this particular act has been enacted by most states within the United States. Chapter 1.80 RCW, the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, is the same as what was in effect previously, so we don't need to change any of our processes. But the key with regard to chapter 1.80, the Uniform Electronic Transitions Act, is no entity can take advantage of it unless they act a specific policy. And so in order for us to use and send electronic transactions or to use electronic signatures, you have to adopt an official policy. So the purpose of this particular policy is to comply with the Uniform Electronic Transitions Act and authorize the counties, as well as county departments, to use electronic records and to use electronic signatures in conjunction with transacting business for Spokane County. If I could have you go to the next slide, please, Mr. Valencia. This particular slide, generally speaking, outlines the elements of the policy, which we'll look at very briefly. Firstly, as I indicated, the policy authorizes the transaction of county business by sending and accepting electronic records, as well as by using electronic signatures to sign documents. Number two is very important, board members. The policy is applicable to all county departments and elected officials. However, the policy, we can't force other county elected officials to use the policy. So if they want to take advantage of the policy, they have to take formal action. The way the policy is drafted is it's specifically applicable to all county departments and the Board of County Commissioners and any staff hired by the Board of County Commissioners. All other elected officials, if they want to take advantage of the policy, have to specifically adopt the policy. And the reason it's written that way is because the board can't require anyone, the elected officials, to use the policy, but they can offer them the ability to use the policy. Number three, and this is very critical, the policy requires the use of information technology software program for electronic signatures. The software program could be Adobe Sign, it could be DocuSign, or it might be another software program that your IT department adopts in the future. So in order to take advantage of the electronic signature policy, you're going to have to go online under the IT software program and sign up to use DocuSign, if you will, or Adobe Sign. Those are the two that they're looking at right now. I worked very closely with your IT department, and in particular, I'm sorry, Commissioner French, go ahead.
Finish your thought.
I worked very closely with Ken Moore and Kevin Norris in coming up with this policy, and they reviewed it and approved it, as well as Becky Garrett. So I wanted to let you know that in the future, they advised me that there may be a software program that's completely different that the county adopts that you will have to sign in and use in order to take advantage of the electronic signatures. Commissioner French, I apologize. You had a question.
No, that's fine. So on item two, if the county assessor, for instance, wanted to adopt this policy, how do they go about that? I mean, we have a formal meeting, we vote on it and everything. I mean, it's documented how we adopt it. Do they have a meeting amongst themselves and say, oh, you know, or how does that policy work, or how's that policy adopted?
Technically, our Spokane, sorry, but technically our policy and procedure manual applies to all Spokane County employees with the exception of elected officials. So Mr. Amacio, correct me if I'm wrong, but the assessor's office employees are already covered under this. It's the actual elected official themselves. And that I'm not exactly sure if they need to formally adopt it or if they just operate under it. But for elected officials, you technically are not required to follow our Spokane County policy and procedure manual differently than our actual county employees employed by Spokane County.
So and you touched on it. How does an elected official that doesn't have a board meeting take an official action to adopt it?
Every elected official, Commissioner French, has the ability to adopt policies dealing with conditions of employment and operating procedures. For example, the prosecuting attorney's office has adopted various policies with regard to charging language and other thing, and they simply individually adopt those because they're not subject to the Open Public Meetings Act because there's only one person who's acting. So in answer to your question, with regard to this particular policy, it would be up to Prosecutor Haskell or Auditor Dalton to adopt the policy to be used in their office.
So I'm still looking for the answer.
Probably just sign a document and it's done, right?
That's what I'm getting at.
Oh,
Is
I'm
that-
sorry.
Is that as simple as this is? They just take a
Yeah.
document and say, we're adopting this,
Yes.
and they sign it?
That would be a
Okay.
way to do it, Commissioner
Okay,
French.
because I was trying to figure out if they have an official meeting, they got to take a vote on it, kind of a deal. Well, then it's a vote of one kind of a deal. So
Right.
how, from a practical standpoint, what are the steps they have to do to adopt it? If it's just signing a letter or whatever, I'm good with that. I just didn't know.
Well, let me address that issue very briefly to the board. I looked at various policies before I came up with this draft and shared it with CEO Simmons. And I can tell you the city of Spokane has a very simple electronic signature policy. It's only applicable to certain county departments and certain city departments and certain city people with regard to certain documents. And I thought that when I talked with CEO Simmons, we wanted to make ours a little bit broader. So right now, when the board hopefully acts on this policy on July 12th, you are authorizing any county employee or department head who you hire and fire, which is all the departments under you, not other elected officials, to take advantage of this policy. Now, I can limit it if that's the direction that the board wants to go, but it was drafted very broadly as we presently speak. So going to the present slide that we have on the overhead machine, number 4, I made this policy retroactive to July 9th, 2016. And the reason I did that is because there may be some instances where some county elected officials or department heads have used an electronic signature. I don't want to be sure that there was no question about that. So I made it retroactive to June 9th, 2016, which was the day the legislature amended the prior law to make it effective to counties and cities. Number 5 is kind of interesting. In order to take advantage of the electronic signature, either to be sure it's correct, you have to be able to authenticate the signature. So if I can have Mr. Valencia, please go to the next slide. Here's an example of what an authentication looks like. In conjunction with executing a lease on the 8th Avenue building with Jaffa, they use the electronic signature process to sign the documents. And whenever they sent a document back to the county, this was the authentication that was attached to the document. And the authentication makes it very clear that the signature on the document is that of the person who's sending it. So why is that important to us? Because if you want to sign a document by an electronic signature and use the county software program, when you sign a document that way, it will automatically include an authentication similar to what you see on the screen, so that the recipient of that document will know that that is in fact your signature and not someone else's signature. Now, a couple of other things, if I could now have Ron, please go to the attachment to the resolution. And I've handed out to the board a copy of the document which Mr. Valencia is going to show on the screen. And a couple of things I wanted to reiterate. Firstly, the policy's been approved by IT, by Vicki Dalton, and also by Mr. Simmons. And the reason I sent it to Vicki Dalton is because Ms. Dalton has been very active in electronic signatures and electronic records in the legislature. And I want to be sure that I didn't miss something. And so she got back to me and said it was fine. The policy itself, which you're seeing on the overhead screen and which I handed out to you, includes 5 sections. The first section is simply identified as purpose. It kind of reiterates what we've already spoken to. The second section is entitled Scope. And again, it reiterates the issue that Commissioner French was talking about. That is to say, any elected official that wants to take advantage of this policy, as Commissioner French pointed out, would have to sign off on it in some way for his or her staff to take advantage of it. The third section is the definition section, and that particular section, I very carefully incorporated terminology from the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act and put it into this document so that any elected official or county department head reading it wouldn't have to go back to the act itself to review the document. Finally, section 4 is the policy itself, and the policy is very similar. I've summarized it with respect to the third PowerPoint document that you saw previously. Now, I would have Mr. Valencia go to, I think this was page 3 of the documents, and you go to item number M. And item number N under 4 makes it very clear that you can't falsify an electronic signature of someone else's. So the board members can't authorize, for example, their executive assistants to use their electronic signature. They've got to do it themselves. This policy prohibits that. The person whose signature on there has to be the person authorizing it. The policy also authorizes the clerk of the board, if she or he goes through certain procedures, to use an electronic signature with regard to their notarization. But that's a complex process, but it's authorized under the particular policy that you're adopting if they go through that policy. Finally, section 5 to the policy is the exemptions from the policy. And the Uniform Electronic Transition Act identifies 3 exemptions from the policy. Interestingly enough, any law governing the creation and execution of wills, codicils, or testamentary trusts, you can't use electronic signatures in conjunction with those. That's 5A. 5B is certain provisions of the Uniform Commercial Code you cannot use electronic signatures on. And then C is just kind of a provision that says, except under certain circumstances under the UCC, you can use the electronic signatures if there's another specific act. In the document that I've handed out to the board this morning, I've added some language which Ms. Dalton requested I act, and I've highlighted that in gray, and it's not on the overhead screen. After a dialogue with Ms. Dalton, on Friday afternoon, after I had sent this document to the clerk for the board's consideration, we added some additional language, and the additional language is on the draft which I've handed you. And it's on page 3 of 4 and going to page 4 and 4. And the language which I'm recommending be added to the version which the board may consider on July 12th would add the following language. Provided further, this policy shall not govern use of electronic signed records and electronic signatures by county elected officials or employees in conjunction with performing their statutory responsibilities to the extent that such actions or transactions are governed by other specific laws or regulations governing their use of electronic records and electronic signatures. So Ms. Dalton would point out to me that there are certain other laws which prohibit the use of electronic signatures other than those which are identified. So by adding that language, we would cover those. So now I think the last slide I had on my presentation for the PowerPoint was questions. And that is my presentation, unless the board has some questions.
I mean, I'm fine with the grayed out language here. I mean, there's other boards that I sit on that have been using electronic signature for a couple of years. So it's kind of like,
Right.
it wouldn't impact that. I don't know if we expressly want to spell that out. I'm fine, whatever.
Well, this is an interesting policy because right now the tourist promotion area is thinking about forming a new tourist promotion area and submitting the petition again to this board of county commissioners because they like the way we run tourist promotion areas. And of course, the first question they asked Mr. Maceo was, a petition has to be signed by 60% of the lodging businesses within the boundaries of the tourist promotion area. Can we use electronic signatures? And I said, well, at the present time, we don't have them. But if we adopt the policy would allow us to consider that. And so what I've been advised by them is they don't want there to be complications with regard to authentications being attached to the signatures. So they're going to go out and get those all by hand. But this does have ramifications as we move forward. So unless, Madam Chair, the board has questions, that's the extent of my presentation. And I would propose that I be authorized to bring this item before the board during your regular agenda on 2 o'clock on July 12th, 2022.
Any other questions? I would say, no, I think it's great. I think, yes, some other boards have been doing it. I think there's other boards, not any government boards, but I mean, there's a lot of people that will scan stuff and have you sign it and then scan it back and you don't get the whole document. So I think this is a much better way to ensure that we're all getting the whole document to see that we're scanning, that we're.
And Commissioner Cooney, this doesn't preclude the use of wet signatures. Some people want to sign a wet signature and they can still do that. One person could sign by electronic signature and the other could sign by a wet signature. So it doesn't preclude that.
And thank you for bringing this forward, Jim. This is kind of a new technology for you.
Well, it is a new technology. It is for me. And you know what? It's a kind of exciting. Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you very much, Chairman Cooney.
Okay, that will take us next to Doug Chase with Parks and Rec.
Good afternoon. Ron, do you have this? It's pulling up on the screen, but okay. Appreciate the opportunity to update you on some of the, I guess, our levels of service within the parks. We are unfortunately experience some serious and ongoing challenges in our ability to hire staff, primarily seasonal, extra help, I should say, part-time extra help, as well as in some cases full-time. being able to hire and retain full-time staff. So currently, more specifically with the part-time, we would typically have about 20 individuals hired. We currently have 5. With the full-time, we have 3 vacancies. We have 2 that we think will be filled shortly. One of those, as an example, we had filled for 3 days and they left. And then the replacement left the day before they started. And so this will be our 3rd try and 6th offer. And we're feeling really optimistic that come July 11th, this particular individual, who's really well qualified, will follow suit. As well as we actually have 2 folks lined up to start around that same date. But our reality is we're just not able to provide the level of service without these individuals out in the field. So we have looked back very similar to what we did during COVID. And we've put together some changes that will allow us to try to maximize what we're able to do with the folks that we have out in the field. Perhaps the most noticeable change will be the closure of the majority of our restrooms within our park system, with the exception of our aquatic facilities, our Camp Carroll Lodge, and our Liberty Lake Regional Park, where we have rental commitments related to the lodge, and that's the only facility there that serves the lodge. With our regional park and campground, we have staff based out of there, and as well as the aquatic facilities. And our strategy will be to bring in porta potties in place and place them near or adjacent to the restrooms, so that we still have the ability for that need, but we'll be able to effectively contract that out on a temporary basis. The restroom cleaning is one of the more labor intensive services that we provide. And so this will be a way that we can do that. And the real goal is just to try to have enough maintenance. So we're minimizing potential liability with properties, trying to keep the parks mowed and green as best we can. And then, of course, the operations staff also works diligently to help keep our aquatic facilities operational, which there we have very good news. I think we're one of few entities in the area that is fully staffed, and we have full operations. So, and they're going very well. We're off thanks to operations. It's always like getting a jumbo jet off the ground every year, and they've done a phenomenal job in conjunction with our recreation aquatic staff. So we're off to a great start there. But our ongoing and continued challenge is with an inability to fill the positions for our park operations. So we're looking to take steps, and wanted to share that with you because there may be some phone calls, and of course, we're open to questions, suggestions. We have a lot of new strategies we're imposing on the recruitment side. Kurt and his team have QR code magnet, like removable magnets on the vehicles. We have banners out in our parks, in addition to many other traditional forms of recruitment. We're just finding it very difficult to compete out there.
So what's the youngest age that we will hire somebody at?
Depends on the position. So for example, I think lifeguards, you guys are 14, off the top of my head, 15. But the age is based on requirements from Washington State Labor and Industries and what sorts of jobs they can do and equipment that they may operate. So for positions that are operating like our larger industrial mowers, or even a weed whacker for that matter, that age is different. I want to say it's 18 off the top of my head. So we have to be very strategic on who gets put into what position based on those requirements from Washington State L&I.
And we made some changes to a couple positions out at our campground, for example. We were able to work within those guidelines to be able to hire at 16 and 17, and that helped us out there. So we've looked very, very closely at those. We're really trying to be creative in every way possible, but there are primarily with the operations, we generally need folks to be 18 for the type of equipment and work.
And I will give it to Doug and his team. They've gotten very creative on how do we shift work and move things around to hire as broad of a group as people as possible. But to his point, that there's still a pretty big struggle that's occurring.
Okay.
So we will be working to make those changes and move the portable facilities out and as quickly as we're able to accomplish that. And we'll be posting the adjusted or reduced levels of service out online. And if by chance we'll continue trying to fill these positions. If we can fill them, we would love to provide a different update and hopefully the other direction and be able to restore some of these services.
Are you seeing students that are coming back from college that are away for college coming back here applying? There's about normal as previous years, above, below?
No, way below.
Okay.
Far below, yeah.
Okay, I just know a couple years ago when, I mean, I think it was more of a national trend. It wasn't anything specific to our region, but I know a couple years ago when we started seeing all the openings, that's what I think it was primarily retail was seeing sort of those types of, you know, that type of demographic sort of saving them a couple years ago, but not us.
It's a very competitive wage market out there right now. And so just seeing a lot of movement with positions that in the past, we probably had a lot easier time staffing.
Well, and Biden's gonna pay for their college now, so they don't have to work.
I just saw RE's advertising that they'll help fund Spokane Falls or Spokane Community College. Trying to get people in. They're just on their downtown reader board, so. It's a different market these days. So thank you for figuring that out.
Yeah, we'll keep at it. We'll keep working towards it and appreciate your time on that. And I think French may have had some questions on another. Probably might will.
Well, thank you.
What you look for that, can I ask? I don't see any reference to golf courses on here. How's our staffing at our courses?
We're doing okay. They have actually, they have been more challenged, but they're being a little more effective at being able to fill the positions. We tend to have folks that really enjoy the sport, that enjoy working part-time and some of the benefits associated with that. But they've even experienced a few more challenges than they have in the past, but I think they're doing okay.
Because I remember when I was in high school, that was the best job you could get if you could get on at one of the golf
Yes,
courses in
they
the
used to-
summer.
They used to
Everybody
turn away a
wanted it.
lot of interested young men and women that were excited to work and now they're just barely being able to beat it.
Yeah.
But they are, so we're so far so good.
All right.
So I was contacted by a constituent that is a veteran. And wondering what we could do to offer waivers to veterans for the golf courses. Or actually, it's for the carts, I believe. Is that right?
There's a trail fee waiver.
Yeah. Go
And one can purchase a season's pass to use their own cart. The cart rentals are one of the primary sources for the golf pros and the golf carts, but we have an option for either a season's pass or a daily trail fee, which I believe is $12, if I'm not mistaken. Yep.
Yep, $12.
And so if you meet the Social Security disability criteria, which is very, very narrow and very limited, then one can obtain a waiver.
And that's part of the challenge, is that it is so narrow that a lot of veterans don't qualify for it. Is that right?
Correct.
And so the request is, can we broaden the scope of what qualifies so that more of our veterans, especially in my age group, can utilize the facilities without incurring a financial burden on them because they are on limited income. And so the cost of the program is what I've provided for you. So it's not a big cost, right?
It's extremely limited.
Yes.
Yes.
And so if we were to broaden the program, we would have to supplement it with some additional income, right, to offset the cost. And so the request is to have you guys consider whether expanding this service to our veterans is something we might be willing to do. You know, even if you were to, I mean, $5,000 would be a significant improvement to what we have now compared to what we've experienced over the last several years. I mean, that would basically increase what the cost of the program was in terms of revenue by almost, 500%, right?
As far as revenue loss
Or
or
replace revenue loss. Or because if you just replace, so as I understand it, the cost of the program as it's currently configured is $1,104 for 2021, right?
that's the estimated for 2021 was the actual utilization of it. Correct,
And it's-
based on the 10 individuals that received the waivers and the redemptions that they had.
And it's a constrained program.
Can you explain, how does the program work? I
Well,
guess, so.
Here's a little background.
I feel we're kind of jumping in the middle of the conversation.
Okay,
I'm not
yeah.
totally familiar with how the program works.
Not a problem.
The little background, back in 2018, there's a gentleman, Tom Hogan, that worked very closely with the city of Spokane to develop they were the initial creators, if you will, the trail fee waiver. And in fact, when the city of Spokane initially implemented their program, the criteria was anyone that had a handicap placard. And from memory, they found that those were not difficult to obtain. And I think from a revenue loss standpoint, they were in the 50, 60 plus thousand in terms of cost of the program. And they discontinued the program because from an operational standpoint, they couldn't sustain it. And so they worked with Tom to develop a set of criteria that would be very limited, very narrow by design. And the goal or intent of the program was to be able to, for that criteria, to target those greatest in need. And they developed and came up with the Social Security disability, and those that receive that, there's the criteria involved with that is very, very limited, as you can see with the very limited number of individuals. And shortly after that, Tom approached the county. We spent the better part of 2018 with regular meetings with Tom. We also had several months where we met with the Spokane County Developmental Disabilities Board to share the criteria. And at the end of that time, we ultimately landed on the same criteria that the city of Spokane utilizes. We, of course, had an opportunity to visit with you, and with your support, I am able to utilize authority that you grant me for offering promotions to match their program through a promotion. And effectively, we match identically the city of Spokane's program with that criteria. We have been in communication with them. I will say, as Commissioner French just pointed out, the downside is there are folks that do not meet this criteria. And it's very difficult for our staff to turn these individuals away. And so very difficult. And so that's the background.
So as a representative for the ACAC, which is a county committee that was founded, I think, a few years ago, that represents people with disability in our community. I know since I've been stepping in the last year, this hasn't been a discussion, but there is always the question is there more that we could do potentially for county people that live here, residents? So Commissioner French, I hear what you're saying. I think my question would then be, do we look at this for anybody with disability, or are we gonna, would you recommend a specific focus on just veterans? Because to Doug's point, I think that would impact the scope of people that would be requesting for and wanting to access something like this.
So I'm not campaigning for a specific outcome. I've got a constituent that raised an issue and so I'm bringing it to the board. I mean, it's whatever the pleasure of the board is in terms of what we would like to do if we want to do anything. I know that we have, as a entity, been empathetic to both folks that are handicap impaired, but also to our veterans. And so this is an opportunity to maybe expand and do something for a broader range of constituents out there. But I don't have a specific say, yes, I want this. I don't know. It's up for the board to decide. I'm just raising the issue to, have a conversation and say, hey, is this something we would like to pursue or not? So, and if you say no, that's fine. I'll just, respond to the constituent and say it was your fault. No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't really do that. So, but I am, I am bringing it forward for your consideration. That's the only thing. I don't have a specific vision in mind about what it is we could do because I'm not the expert in this field and such. So that's all.
Well, and I will say from an audit perspective, if we determine, we'd have to have some criteria to make the determination. Otherwise, it's a gifting of public funds. And so how do we determine that criteria? And Kat, I see you're on the line. Maybe. But, I think it would warrant maybe a little more investigation. Is there another level that we could take it to that doesn't take it to a handicap placard? That could allow individuals, since we, since it appears to be very narrow, that not that many people are using it. That we could take it to, or if we have to go to handicap placards, then that doesn't work because that's it. They are easy.
Anybody can get those. You can get them at Lowe's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, Mr. Ogan, for example, was the first advocate to eliminate that or to advocate against that. And it's very challenging. I mean, we were. It's a difficult topic. We're happy to go back and take a look at it, but we really went months round and round looking for and at different criteria, and it's very difficult. But we're certainly happy to take a look at that again if the board would like us to take a look and see if there's another level out there. It's
So, I mean, if you were a veteran, you're going to more than likely have what's called the DD 214, which is a document that reflects the fact that you served. And so, I mean, maybe if something like that, as opposed to a placard, it's just way too easy to get. The only way you can get a DD 214 is from the Department of Defense. And so maybe we do use that as the threshold. I really don't have an idea. I just raise it as an opportunity. That's all. So, and open to any kind of suggestions.
So I'm always, I I'm always open to finding ways to get more people to come to our golf courses. I mean, because we're competing against the city courses, we're competing against the handful of privately owned courses that are around you. You know, what can we do to make someone drive past a city course, past a private, to come to one of ours? You know, even if one of the other ones is more conveniently located. I know we have a junior rate, an adult rate, and a senior rate. Do we have a veterans rate?
We have,
Around the golf?
we have a veterans discount card, effectively our $55 discount card,
Okay.
which provides, I think, $8 to $10 off per round, depending upon the day.
Okay.
Is discounted by $40.
Okay.
They can obtain it for $10. So I guess that's a $45 discount. Sorry.
Okay.
So we offer that $45 off the discount card, which then provides them a significant discount.
Yeah.
They recover it potentially their first round.
Yeah.
And then they're saving a significant amount every time they go. So
Yeah.
we have and that is, I think we started offering that just 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
And it's been very, very well received.
Yeah.
From veterans, both active and retired.
Okay, because I was thinking, because I was gonna say, I mean, would it make more sense for us to just have a straight veterans rate? Because not every veteran owns their own golf cart and is gonna bring it and use it. So this would only help those veterans that have a personal golf cart that they own. So, you know, would it be more, you know, would it be better for us to just have a veterans rate for a round of golf? And anybody can, whether they're driving a personal car or walking, they still get a discount that way. So I don't know, just throwing out ideas, something that makes our courses more appealing than our competition.
Well, and you can, and Catherine diminishes this program. Once you go through and qualify for your VA benefits, you do get a military ID card that identifies you as military that you can use at Lowe's and Home Depot and all that kind of stuff for the 10% off. So, I mean, you could either produce that, or you could produce a DD 214, or there's ways that will document the fact that you are in fact a veteran.
Oh, yeah, no.
Stuff, so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I totally understand. I'm
Which
just
requires
saying is
paying that for
if-
$10.
if our goal is to kind of give a benefit or a thank you to our veterans, this would only benefit those that own their own personal cart.
Yeah.
Would it make more sense for us to, if we want to show a cost savings, put it on the thing that
Got
whether you own a cart or not, you're going to get that savings, and that would be on the cost of the round of golf.
No, yeah,
So
you bet.
I don't know.
With the dollars sense of that, because
Yeah.
we have a large veteran population.
Yeah.
Um,
But is it a large population that is going to city courses and not even looking at county courses? Would this bring over people to our courses that otherwise aren't playing
I guess
at
the
our
question
courses?
is,
And I don't know.
Are courses full at this point in time? I mean, how? busy
We're
are
doing
you?
very well. We've certainly been negatively impacted by the rainy weather, which is to be expected, unfortunately. But as far as from a budgeted revenue standpoint, we're exceeding our budgeted revenues. The weather everything is picking up now. We keep it under 90, but we expect to have a good season overall.
So, and I guess I'm just, to Commissioner Cruz's point, like how well utilized are the courses?
I believe they're fairly well utilized. I
'Cause I've heard
can
it's been
report
hard to
back.
get a
we-
tee time, like you gotta plan out to get tee times, you can't just get a tee time quickly.
Depending upon the weather, correct. Yes, and the time of day that you're targeting. Those early morning ones are routinely filled. You are able to make a tee time online 12 days prior. Or if you want to pay a higher rate, you can even go beyond that. It's kind of the pre-book rate, if you will. I apologize for not having the statistics in front of me as far as the number of the veteran discount cards that we sell. I think it is substantial. I think we sell quite a few, and I think that move has pulled a lot more veterans to our courses since making that move.
So that would be good to see. the
So
numbers on.
yes, I would
Because we're already doing
be
a
thrilled
discount for
to put those
that
numbers
offset.
together to be able to show that number, but I think it's notable. I think it's well utilized and well appreciated. Again, that's one area we've received a lot of positive feedback from the community. Then, of course, if the weather cooperates and we're open on Veterans Day, we always do our Veterans Play fee free on Veterans Day, and we've tried to at least keep one course open. And again, even if it's just a few, because the weather isn't always kind, they seem to really appreciate it, those that take advantage of it. And I think even one of our golf pros out at Meadowood, if I'm not mistaken, he chooses to make carts free on Veterans Day for veterans that take advantage of that. That's just something that he's chosen to offer. So we do appreciate our veterans and try to find ways to convey that. But of course, we want all of our patrons to feel appreciated.
Anyway, like I said, the conversation's going to spur, and that's great. Not campaigning for any specific outcome, just your consideration. Thank you.
Something you want them to look at. I mean, I think it'd be interesting to have the numbers of how many people veterans are getting the discount and what that financial cost is. Because I mean, you're an enterprise fund, so you gotta.
Yes, if one were to look at the discount on that card, it's substantially more than the cost of the trail fee waiver program. And I can come back with that just because it's so well utilized.
Yeah.
Which again, we believe there's a return on that with the additional rounds played. So, thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is to Jeff and Morris and Arian.
So just a quick update where we are on ARP. The Whitworth Water District is under contract. Arian's working with several of the other awardees on those contracts. We will be seeing several resolutions on the consent agenda on the 11th, the week after the 4th of July. There'll be the committee met on the water conservation category, the water and sewer other category, and the public health medical expenses category. So we got those three that all closed. The water categories, it was Arian, myself, Dale Anderson, and Jerry Kimmel, who were the review committee. And then it was Arian, myself, Dale, along with Teresa Sanders, former city administrator, on the medical expenses category. The recommendation is taking you over the 2,000,000 and 300,000 that was originally appropriated. So one resolution would be the additional funding in each category appropriated to the category so that you can award it. And that'll be about 1.5 million additional spread over the three categories. And then you'll also have a separate resolution for each category, naming the multiple awardees within each category. So looking at 4 resolutions on the consent calendar, which I guess will actually be the 12th on Tuesday. And then just by way of reminder, the broadband other is open. It closes next Wednesday, the 6th of July. The water storage is open. It closes the following week on the 13th. And then when is public health opening?
This Wednesday, and it will close the 20th.
So that's where things are. And then do you want to talk, Arian, to the reporting that's coming up?
Yeah, so July is our due date for 2 federal treasury reports. One is the quarterly report, and then the other is our annual report, which is a much larger document. We would like to present to you that annual report on July 18th to go over our ARP. It includes our methodologies, our allocations, basically our performance report. Think of just a traditional annual report for your comments or requests so that way we may be well ahead of the deadline for submitting both reports before the July 31st deadline. So that's pretty much it. Jeff and I will be talking with you about ideas for the second tranche as we're kind of clearing out some of these, and we have a couple other items that we want to vet for other funding sources, so that we direct some interested entities that way to help us understand better the few remaining categories we still haven't funded. So those are kind of just those secondary items. I do have a few things for miscellaneous that are slightly related to ARP, but not completely related, that we can get to whenever we're there. Are we there?
Any questions for Scott or Jeff? Sorry.
Sorry, we're on opposite sides.
Yeah, it's like. Okay. So with that, then we come to miscellaneous matters. So do you want to start, Ariane?
I did want to follow up on a couple action items that will be on the July 12th consent. We were advised that we needed a resolution to accompany the interlocal agreement with Petrocor to receive the funding from the curb study grant to finish out the study. That study is well underway, but that will be on your consent. Also, what will be on the consent is Airway Heights signed the memorandum of understanding to ensure there's coordination between those two curb awards. So that will be on consent for your signatures. I have a new acronym for everyone. It's called WISBO. That is the new, I guess you could say, in the know term for the Washington State Broadband Office. So if you start hearing WISBO, that's what that means. And their notice of funding for their second round of awards that was supposed to occur in June is now set to, if at best, occur late July. So we are keeping our eyes on that, touching base with Joe. That will be that 10% match that ARPA funds allows us to do. We are learning more and more about BEAD funding, which stands for Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Funds. That should be about 6 to 9 months out, but that's actually going to be from the federal government. We don't know if it's going to come through the state. But the reason I mention that is going to have a 25% match requirement. So as we're going forward on the remaining balance, we might just want to kind of just keep that in our back minds, because that too is eligible under the ARP broadband match category allocation. So just a couple things on that. And then lastly, I know that your assistants were made aware of this, but I wanted to make sure you were aware. We've been officially invited by the Ukrainian Refugee Coalition and Thrive to a tour of the hotel that's resettling refugees on Saturday, the 16th. So those of you that are able to come, they'd love to have you. If you are able to come, they were going to set aside the time frame of about 1 o'clock for an official kind of acknowledgement, if any of you would like to say any words. So
what's the date?
it's Saturday, July 16th. The celebration is from 10 to 4, and I asked them to narrow that down a little bit. And they said that 1 o'clock was when they were planning to do anything official, but we're going to wait to see what your schedule's allowed. So just wanted to bring that up. And we're about ready to close out the tier 1 funding for commerce on that this week.
And I think I've already RSVP'd on the Ukrainian thing, so.
This is the first I've heard of it.
That's why I figured I'd bring it up, just so everybody was aware. And
I can probably make it at 1 o'clock on the 16th.
Wow, this is the first time hearing this one, so. What's going on for me? Oh, it's on my calendar.
okay.
Please do know.
I'll let Vladimir know that it looks like that will work, and I think it'll be fun to see what is actively being used. And from what I understand, occupancy is vastly exceeding what we thought would be in June. So that's really exciting.
So Scott,
I've got a couple things.
Yeah.
One, just an update on the West Plains TIF. I had briefed the board maybe a month ago on that. We had requests to issue another $700,000 in bonds. That would be the fourth series of the West Plains TIF. Our bond counsel, Pacifica, has pretty much all the documents from the last bond issuances. And in talking with Roy Kogan, he expects that a bond resolution will be in front of the each of you at the week of July 11th for you to take action, and then get that off to bond counsel, and they'll work directly with the presumable bond holders out of the West Plains TIF. Questions on that? Okay. And secondly, we became aware of a grant that was provided through Commerce for moving people off of state-owned right-of-way that was issued last week. The city requested us to join a meeting with them last Friday. I think it came out on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, the RFP or the grant. We went to the city and were listening to what they were proposing. It was pretty light on details right now. Kind of went with an open ear, but don't have really a lot to offer right now. As we learn more about it, we'll share back what that ask might look like and what, if any, role that the county might be able to play in it. It has a 30-day turnaround time, so they're requesting responses by the 21st of July. Commerce is requesting multi-jurisdictional application that goes in, but we're understanding there would be direct MOUs with individual entities who might receive dollars that are coming in. The other piece of the grant indicated that Commerce reserves the right to do up to a 30% direct allocation, if I got that right, to an entity that they determine is best suited to be able to address this. So as we learn more, I will share more with you.
Good. And it was just our normal Friday morning or once a month meeting as the chair with the mayor and Scott and Johnny that then got the 4:30
Pivoted.
Thursday, and I found out it was getting changed to this other meeting. So, and I had to leave after the first hour. So it was interesting.
So we'll bring back more. We don't know what an ask is yet, but we'll bring back more when we know more.
The mayor at the DSP meeting last week indicated that the city was in line to receive $24 million and that they've already developed strategies on how to spend it.
We listened. There was no strategies really talked about.
I know, I just sharing with you what she said.
And we met so the city of Spokane Valley was there with Eric Lamb, the assistant city manager, and their new housing and homeless coordinator, Eric, I don't know his last name.
Robeson?
I don't remember the last name. They're both Eric.
Yes. And then we also, Council President Beggs was there with their new staff person for the council, who is the homeless housing coordinator.
Megan, I don't remember.
Yeah, first name Megan.
So it was, as you can see, with all those people there, an hour went by very quickly. And I had somewhere else I had to be. So we just
Those people and an idea died of loneliness.
Still shocked the mayor showed up for your guys' monthly. She was about 1 out of 4 with me. Let's see.
That's all I had.
okay. So then we have 2 executive sessions. So the first one I will.
I can kick that one off. That's executive session for pending and potential litigation under RCW 4230.110(1)(I). That would be all the commissioners, executive management team, Mark McLean, our chief civil, Ben Bradabo, and Lori Terry, who's our outside counsel for our NPDS permit.
She's already on the others.
Okay.
Okay.
And then how long do you anticipate that?
What do you think, Ben? 20 minutes? 20, I would say 20.
And Commissioner French.
Mine would be basically a continuation of what we did yesterday. And so it'd be performance of a public official and or evaluation of the performance of public official and would include three commissioners, Mr. Simmons and Mr. McLean, and wouldn't take more than 15 minutes.
So we will be going into executive session for those two items. It is 3:30. We anticipate being out at 4:05 then. And we will be adjourning for the day as we will not, we don't anticipate any action.
No, I don't believe we'll have any, no, we don't have any action.
So no action. So then at that point, we will adjourn for the day. Thank you very much.